Welcome to episode 388 of the show. We are fast getting to the end of the questions that we considered at the Instagram live session that we did for Evolve Africa. And today's questions that we're going to look at are the discussions that we had around pricing. Now, there are two main theories that I found convincing and that I'd like to put forward when we get to the pricing question. But the overall message that I'd like to give when I'm answering these sorts of questions, what we did on Instagram handle and now that we're treating the question over here, basically is to say that whichever approach you're going to take, just pick one and begin. Because in my own opinion, lots of people get paralyzed with this pricing question for too long. And on the Instagram live, I gave an example of an associate that I had who was going to get into the cake game. Person was going to be a baker, a cake artist. I'm not quite sure what you guys like to call yourselves, and eventually get involved in the wedding space. But she was going to start out with simpler stuff like cupcakes and cookies and things of that nature. Now, this person is a competent professional or a competent artist because her stuff looks good and it tastes good, and the branding and the packaging and all the stuff that she designed actually is really, really good. But then she was being held back by this whole conversation around pricing for far too long. And I remember a conversation that I had with this individual about moving forward, and we had one conversation and she was trying to sort out the pricing. So should I price it for 6 at this, or should I price it at 8 at this, or should I make it a bundle of this, or should I tag it along with this and with that? And they're all legitimate and really important questions, and I gave some feedback. Only for us to hook up again not too long after, I think about 2 months later or so, and she was still back at the pricing thing. So that's the reason why we're going to run through these theories of how to price your goods or your services. But at the end of the day, the most important thing for me is just pick one and then start. Don't get hung up on this pricing thing for too long. Because the most important, not the most important, one of the best thing about sales as a discipline is that it's really forgiving. And since you're having one-on-one conversations with potential customers and people that you've actually done business with, you're going to get all the feedback that you need to adjust your pricing or to adjust certain aspects of your product or service delivery. And so it isn't really a problem if you don't have all the information that you need now. The most important thing from a sales perspective anyway is to start today, and then you will get some feedback that will make you realize that you've been priced too low, and in which case the good news is you have to put your price up. In fact, it compels you, it impels you, I can't remember the phrase, you are compelled to now throw the price up. Because when I was starting in the photography game close to a decade ago, it's something that I heard in American photography circles, that if you are speaking to people and your close rate was 100%, then you're too low. And that's also something that is mirrored in traditional sales circles. So bottom line, you're coming into this business, you want to be a cake artist, and you're pricing yourself at, let's say, 25k. That's 25,000 naira for one wedding cake. So if you do that at 25,000 naira for one wedding cake, and the first 10 people that call you up have booked at that 25,000, then you know that your prices are too low. Because obviously, what the people think is, this lady is so good, or these cakes are that good, or whatever it is, however it is that they're looking at it, the value is so good that this is a steal at 25,000 naira. So in that case, you now know that you have to increase your prices. By how much should you increase your prices? That's a topic for another episode. But bottom line is, you're going to get the feedback that you need, and you don't need to be scared, and you don't need to be hindered from making progress when it comes to pricing. Now, so theoretically, how do you consider pricing? There are two main approaches, and these approaches these are the approaches that have been there since the beginning of the world. Number one is a cost-based approach, and this is where you take your cost of goods, you take your fixed costs, your variable costs, and all that, and then you divide them. According to the output that you are going to give. Now, this doesn't work very well for people who are service-based professionals. So wedding photographers, a cost-based approach, is not going to work that well for you. In a sense, it could, because you could look at the cost of a second shooter, the cost of making the album, the cost of buying the batteries. Let's see what else. Maybe factor in the cost that you've used to run Instagram ads over the year. What else? All those things, and then factor in the price. To say that if I price it at this level, assuming that I'm going to get 10 weddings per year or 5 weddings per year or whatever, this is the cost at which is going to make sense for us to go forward with this. So it doesn't really work very well when it comes to service-based businesses. So lawyers, accountants, business consultants, photographers, what else? That might not help pretty much. But for someone like my dear friend who was looking to come into the cake baking space, this kind of thing works because you do have fixed costs. Your rent is there, that's fixed. Let's see, what else? Okay, the cost of your ovens and all whatnot. Okay, then the variable cost would be the cost of gas for the ovens. Let's see, what else? The cost of electricity for the blow dryer. Is it blow dryer? That fancy thing that you guys used to blow or to make sugar harden and stuff like that. But anyway, the bottom line is there are going to be some costs that are fixed, like your rent. It's fixed pretty much. And then there's going to be costs of things that go up and go down. So maybe the cost of your sugar is going to be a variable cost because today 1 kilo of sugar might cost, 5k. And then maybe next month the price goes up or goes down. So basically you take all these prices and try and look for an aggregate that, okay, if I'm spending 2 million to be in business for the whole year, and I think I'm going to be able to sell 10 cakes or 200 cakes or whatever, then how much do I think I should price these things? So that is pretty much what it means. That's pretty much the cost-based approach. What are all the costs that I have here? The fixed costs, the variable costs, add everything together. I think this is the output I'm going to have, and then do a division, and that's it. That's your price. And then the second bucket of pricing-based approaches are the value-based approaches, where you don't value things according to what they cost, but you value them according to what the market can bear and what potential clients think it's worth. So there are people who say a Bentley is not worth X number of millions of naira that it costs to acquire it. Because if you look at the cost of making the car, especially if you're going to look at things from a purely utilitarian point of view, you're just moving from point A to point B, so it doesn't have to be X millions of naira. And well, yeah, in that case, you would be absolutely correct. But the thing is, you are trying, at least the people behind the Bentley brand and the Rolls Royce and Lamborghini and all that, they're trying to deliver a premium experience, an exclusive experience, and the market is willing to bear that. The market is willing to tolerate that. And so because of that, even though it might cost 1 million to produce the car, if the market is willing to bear 40 million to buy the car, then that's what the car is going to be cost. That's what the car is going to cost. So now you will find that for a lot of us in the wedding and the event space, we are trapped somewhere in between both approaches, because we have elements of cost that we have to consider, but then again, we're also looking at what the market has to bear. And that's why, in my own opinion, I really believe that in the wedding and the event space anyway, you can't go wrong by coming into the market and figuring out what's the average cost, where do you want to play, what are entrants in the market currently doing, and then just start with that, because really at some point pricing is arbitrary. And that's something that we discussed on the Evolve Africa Instagram channel as well. We looked at how when iPhones first came out, they were charged at a certain cost, they were charged at a certain price, and then they put the phones out in the market, and then they sold out. And then Apple realized, like, oh, we sold this thing too cheaply. And then they increased the price and sold out again, and then increased the price again, and then they found the adequate price along the curve that they should use to price iPhones. And now it can be expected, well, at least in Nigeria anyway, that if a new iPhone comes out, there's going to be several hundreds of thousands of naira, close to the 500. Okay, well, let me not betray my ignorance. Let me not show that I don't buy iPhones. So anyway, well, I know someone who at a certain point bought an iPhone for, I think, close to 600k, and I've heard that at the time because I was really shocked, how someone would buy a phone for 600 grand. And I think my wife was now telling me about, no, not my wife, one of my wife's friends was telling me about another babe who bought it for close to 700 grand and stuff like that. Well, anyway, I would never buy a phone for 500 grand. Where was I? Gosh, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so it's all about what the market is willing to bear. So, as wedding and event professionals, some of us are trapped in between where we're looking at the costs that we have and we're also looking at what it is that we have to bear. So, at some point, pricing is arbitrary. The thing is, we just have to get in and start. If we do the sales process properly, we're going to get all the feedback that we need to adjust our prices accordingly. So, with the example that I gave, if you price your cake at 25k, you spoke to 10 people, the 10 people bought, they didn't argue, they didn't quarrel. You just said 25k, and they said, oh, 25k, okay, no problem. What are your account details? And then they send. And that happens 10 times in a row. Then, now you need to increase your price. But of course, make sure you have the debrief conversations that we spoke about, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago. That's the episode where we're talking about customer service and I think client retention. So if you're new to the podcast, this is your first time listening, once you're done with this, skip back 2 or 3 episodes, I think, max, maybe 4. But just look for customer service and client retention in the heading, and you'll be exposed to more of these ideas about what the debrief is. So run through the debrief so you get a sense of what it is that they liked about the process, what it is that they enjoyed, because you're new in the game. So you're also trying to figure out not just your pricing, but what is your USP, what's your unique selling proposition. That is what you need to approach the market with. So if everybody that paid the 25k said that your cakes look good, they're absolutely stunning, you've not seen anything prettier than that before, and apart from that they tasted absolutely divine, then you now know that you're going to sit down with your spouse, your business partner, or with your marketing person, and that is what you're going to try to communicate with your advertising and through your sales processes, that your cakes look absolutely stunning and they taste divine. So that is going to be part of your messaging. So in the early days, it's not something that we ought to think over too much. Just begin. Start somewhere. Follow the sales process. You're going to get all the feedback that you need to begin. Although there's one danger to watch out for anyway. Anchoring your price too low sometimes has a detrimental effect that some people are not able to escape. So if you start off and you're perceived to be dirt cheap, then people might think that you're not of good quality. So that's the only pricing horror story that I can think of for now, and that's a hard one to escape. When people say that, oh, those photographers, like, nah, they're just cheap, as in they don't know what they're doing. Stuff like that. So that one is a harder one, I think, a trickier one to escape. But beyond the danger of pricing yourself too low and dirt cheap, there really isn't that much of a. There really isn't. You're not going to get into much trouble. Most bottom line is you've heard it all now. You've heard some of it now. Value-based, cost-based approach. You're going to go online. You're going to do some research. You're going to talk to some people. The most important thing is just start. Don't be that person, don't be that guy, that girl that you have a conversation with your spouse or with your friend in January that you guys are going to move forward, everything is locked down, you've done all the design, you've done everything, you've got the Instagram handle, you've gotten absolutely everything, and you say, oh, now we're just thinking about price, and they say, oh, cool, and they encourage you, and then they meet you again in February, and you're still thinking like, oh, I'm not sure what the most effective pricing is going to be. If you're getting into this cake game, just begin. So yeah, that's it. I think that's it pretty much. Let me see, is there anything I have? Okay, I think I've covered everything I pretty much wanted to do when it comes to the pricing thing. So just begin. It's going to be either cost-based or value-based. So thank you very much for listening to today's recording. I'm your host, Abuja-based sales and business consultant, Tavishima George Ayede. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording. And let me have a look. Let me see if I can find the list of questions about... Okay. I can't find my sheet of paper. Okay, well, I'll find it eventually, but I think we are really close to the end. I think we have maybe two more recordings, and then we're done with the session that we have with Evolve Africa. So thank you very much, guys. I'll catch you guys at tomorrow's recording.